All right, so thank you all so much for joining us for today's Remote-a-thon session. Remote-a-thon is a series of interactive talks with leaders in customer support and success, sales enablement, and knowledge management. And all of these sessions are recorded and available to watch after. So if this is the first of the Remote-a-thon sessions that you're joining, you have the option to go back and watch some of our previous sessions, and we have several more throughout the summer. So please join us for more. There have been really great, exciting sessions so far. So today we are really excited to be joined by Tig Newman, who is going to be talking about using data to improve the creation and accessibility of knowledge. So Tig, if you want to go to the next slide. By way of introduction, my name is Sydney Sundell. I'm a product marketing manager at Guru, and I've had the pleasure of working with Tig on her presentation. So I will pass things over to Tig to introduce herself a little bit more and kick things off.
Thank you. I'm Tig Newman, information architect. I also get called principal content strategist for Looker. And a few months ago, we were purchased by Google Cloud. So just to give you a sense of where I'm coming from, my career is involved doing technical support, technical documentation, technical training, curriculum development. I've been a lead or manager of all of those things. And these days, I'm information architect, and that involves, among other things, data analysis, sorry for the noise, data analysis, tracking data we haven't been tracking before, and merging data. So I'm going to be the one who gets to stay here and talk about things, but when I talk about we did this or I did this, there's also Sam Asher and Molly Lipset. Both of them are in support, and I started in support on this effort. Eventually got what I call viciously promoted to take care of more of the company, which still kept me focused on Guru as well. So just to kick it off, 2020, quite a year. I'm going to just briefly mention one thing, COVID-19, which I think is remarkable because the whole world has come together to share data. And that's allowed us to look at the situation, determine risks, challenges, and opportunities, flatten the curve, and things like that. Your organization can use data to do similar things. And that's what I'm trying to give you some ideas to help out with. Because I think that organizations, as it says here, that use data effectively are more likely to succeed, especially in difficult times. So what I'm going to be doing is showing you some ideas, but more importantly, how we think about using data. And it will talk about Guru, but it's also larger than that. It's any application you have. Now, Sydney asked me to mention knowledge and what kind of knowledge we're talking about. We have lots, public documentation, internal information, training courses, and other things. We actually connect to a bunch of other data as well. Now, specifically for Guru, that's the internal stuff for us. Now, I know some people share that with prospects and customers. Ours is internal with an exception. And we have, my apologies, detailed information for specific use cases, troubleshooting tips, team processes, and info on upcoming features, and a variety of other things in there. Now, just a housekeeping moment. When I gray something out, that means we already talked about it and you can ignore it. So, Guru cards. Those of you, many of you signing up have Guru, but not everybody. So, Guru cards are like index cards. You can put them on boards, which are kind of like a bulletin board. You put them in a collection, which has, it's like a basket, and various things key off of that, including permissions. And third, there are tags to help with searching. So we started with 4 collections early on, 3 that are team specific, and the mothership, Looker Share. When we started putting on boards, which for us happened fairly late, as I put things on boards, I discovered that we really had two things in that general one: team processes and product knowledge. So we split them. As I talk, sometimes I'll be talking about all of these collections, sometimes both of the general use ones. I'm especially going to talk about the product knowledge one because that's mission critical, and we've worked a lot on that. Whoosh. So starting with Guru Analytics. Guru has analytics built in, which is cool. It's curated, and Looker powers it. So that's great. You can go beyond that to using the API for Guru, or frankly, any application. Now, a brief timeout. If API threw you, and that's okay, here's what an API is. It's one program or script saying, hey, please do this for me, or please tell me this information. And it's asking Guru on the right or some other application. And the word API means a set of those requests that you can use, plus all the overheady things that make it work. So when I say API, just imagine a program asking Guru to do something. So using API. Using the API, we've been able to extract data for more extensive analysis. We are totally hooked on data, as you might expect. So we take our Guru data, use the API to put it in a database, and use Looker to look at it. We also use the Guru API for two other things. One is automating actions, including at least one place where we change how Guru works. And second, to bring Guru to where the users are in two new ways. So I'll show you those briefly as well. So once again, I'm trying to just show you how we think about using Guru and its data. I'll tell you a couple short stories first before we go to a poll, and later there will be some more complex stories. First key is you've got to explore your data, because then everything else becomes possible. And for example, I'm just showing Guru Analytics gets you some way down the line, and Guru data accessible from a data analysis tool gets you way farther. Especially with the unknown questions, because you can open up access to more people. They'll have questions you never thought of. And drilling, meaning if you find out that 37 people did something, you can drill in to see who it was. So you can always ask the next question off of a number you see, and follow-up questions. So one of the strengths of Looker is you can ask a real person, not somebody in a data analysis team necessarily, can ask the next question and the next question and the next question. They don't have to wait in line. They don't have to send a request. You just set up the permissions appropriately and go for it. So Explorer underlies everything else and helps you investigate what's going on. And you can see which experiments make a difference. Here's one example. We started with support paying for Guru. For those of you who were at last year's conference, the one that we saw each other in person, Margaret Roses talked about how the support team, which we call Department of Customer Love, brought Guru in. So here's a graph that I prepared for the powers that be back a year or so ago, showing different teams coming on board and then a whole wave of employees coming on. So the answer was, yeah, the company should start paying for Guru. Second, encouraging it. So first off, if you have a new employee, are they starting to use Guru like they should? If so, applaud them. If not, coach them, show them why it would be a good idea. Also lets you identify your heroes. Who is growing the knowledge base? I know this word. So in that case, once you know, you can give them kudos publicly. You can make it part of reviews. You can make it promotion criteria to be helping the community, giving back. Now, we started with individual managers and their teams doing this. And what they were doing was a weighted balance of these three activities. And then we decided to do it larger as a leadership board. And we also do it for special initiatives so that we can applaud the folks that are doing a fabulous job for us. Third, amplify it. Whoosh. So how many support chats don't have any resources that help to solve them? So amplify it, get those solutions written down. So if there was no card available, they had to experiment and try it, or maybe they had a Slack conversation, get that into Guru. And Molly Lipset, one of the people I mentioned, she's been taking lead on that with some volunteers. And since our Guru is internal, we have a separate moment where we're looking at what are the most popular Guru cards. Can we turn those into public-facing documents? So, amplifying it. And the last of the short stories, extending it. This one's a little different, but our support team has a data and tools team of 2 people. And they created, actually Brecht Vermeer created a new tab Chrome extension. So when support people and a few others click new tab, up pops this, and it has a search bar where they can search Guru and a few other things. And at the bottom, there are 3 Guru cards. Weather report is, hey, this is what's happening. Customer alerts and customer info. The really cool thing is, after you've read it, you can dismiss it. And if a manager or I or somebody else changes one of these things, it'll pop back in for you. So you only have to pay attention if it's there. One last one, extending Guru. So our professional services team, specifically Drew Gilson, did a menu of best practices written on Guru cards that he and now other professional services folks work with customers to walk through their setup using these Guru cards. They select what best practice they want to work on that day. They rate the current status, and they have a place to take notes on next steps or whatever makes sense here. And they can choose multiple of these, and then it creates a PDF for both sides to have going forward. So those are the short stories. After this, I'm going to actually tell you some longer stories. But first, we have a poll for you. Sydney? Oh, one last thing. I wanted to also say, if you don't have Guru, that's fine. Answer for some other application you have. Now over to you, Cindy.
Thank you, Tig. Yeah, so we have a poll for you. We're curious, which of these is your organization currently using in terms of API, or are you using a built-in solution? Like Tig mentioned, whether you're using Guru or another solution, just curious to hear what everyone here is using right now. So looking at the results as they come in, looks like we have a lot of people using Guru's built-in analytics. Some nothing yet. And then we have a few that are using Guru's API to view data in a different data analysis tool. Awesome. Yep. Looks like Guru's built-in analytics is taking the lead.
A fine thing.
Good news for everyone. All right, we'll go ahead and end that poll there. Thank you all for participating. That's super interesting and definitely helpful. All right, so we will end that one there. So Tig, I know your team has had a really interesting journey with one of Guru's key features, which is all around verification. And that's something that teams look at differently, and there's a lot of different outlooks on that. So I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about what Looker's journey has been with verification.
Sure. And it really has been a journey. I thought about just showing you beginning and end. I thought the journey was a little more interesting. Yeah. This will show you as well the efforts we've made to guide what people are doing, and then just automate it, and finally flip it, which I'll explain down the path. So this story will include all three of those. So for those of you using Guru, are you having trouble getting people to re-verify cards? And now for a spot of heresy. Do you really need them to do that? Okay. We had trouble with verification. And so I looked at the data as far as who was our verifiers and what was happening and what things were working, what weren't. And I found that lots of creators, authors of cards, put themselves as verifier. And then they weren't real good about re-verification, and they were the only people who were allowed to do it. And they were getting kind of grumpy because it was a burden. No good deed, creating a card, goes unpunished. Now you have to verify it forever. Okay, second problem I found was some creators put other individuals as the verifier. Surprise! And that often led to confusion. Sometimes there were people who'd only been in for a few things in Guru, and they were getting notifications and didn't know what to do about it, and they had their day job and just blew it off. So these were two problems. I think of this as the verifier on the island problem by themselves. So we have a rule, no individual verifiers. Which means, for those of you not using Guru yet, that means you use a verifier group. So you define a group and you put people in it, and however many people are qualified to answer the question. And I used exception reports to guide that. So I personally would get something like the top box here. Person 1 has 1 card, they're marked as a verifier. Person 2 has 2. So the author and the verifier are the same. If I click in on the number, I can actually see the cards. So I either notified the author to fix it, or I fixed it myself if it was a one-off. And in the process, I discovered we needed to create new verification groups. So that helped. Now we had them all on groups. And by the way, if you also don't want individual verifiers, I put in a feature request for having a big switch that says none of that. So join me if you want. Okay, now the product knowledge collection. Remember, this is kind of our flagship collection. It was looking good. Actually, it was looking kind of okay. I didn't have an icon for that. But then I drilled into the data. Even when things are good, drill into your data. Look at your data in detail. What I found was, yes, we had a reliable verification system. This one I called SAM. It stands for SAM. So this is Sam Asher, who's on the line as well. He personally was verifying most of them. Now, some of you are going, wait, you said verifier groups. Yeah, that's okay. He was a member of literally all of the verification groups for the PK collection, the product knowledge collection. But he personally was doing most of the verifications. There's Sam, and there's the data. So that line across the top was his verifications. And below are the other people who verified. So the numbers looked kind of okay, but the details, we saw a problem. So started thinking about it. Sam was delighted to see that data. He had certainly kind of felt like he was, doing a lot of them. So our first idea, we have subject matter expert areas and people who qualified for those, that we were going to assign each SME a board to maintain with cards, and they were in charge of keeping that verified. So that took the bottom 8 or 9 out of the equation and kept the general stuff going to Sam. We'd solve that later. So talked to some managers, created new verification groups. The authors started using those groups when they used cards. We created matching boards. Sam used the API to assign tags to boards. A support analyst who wanted a project used the API to assign, once we had those tags, used the tags to assign cards to boards. We were ready. Now the catch is, that this took 5 weeks. And 5 weeks in Looker is a very long time. And when we were ready to go, I got told, womp womp, sorry, these are very precious people. Their time, everybody wants a small piece of their time. No. Okay. So lessons learned. Make sure you have official buy-in. We have a way more serious process now. And keep communicating during development. Don't disappear setting things up. Keep talking to them. Back to the drawing board. Okay, idea number 2. If everything was 100% verified, then maintaining it would be easy. So we got a bunch of volunteers, all of them from support, and they spent evenings and lunches or whatever to get the collection to 100% verified. We were pretty happy. But from there, it started going down gradually. So back to the drawing board. And this time, really listened and thought about what we were hearing. Our basic problem was that in people's heads, verified and unverified were kind of sort of the same thing. And that makes sense in our collection because our product changes every month, but it changes in ways that add. And usually something that was true before is still true. So having the cards expire every 3 months by default was causing us to have to verify things that were typically still true. So we decided that was too fast. And we started talking about automating it, stretching it, and how we were going to stretch it, and whether we would stretch it in ways that would stagger when these things became need to be renewed for verification. Before we actually implemented that, we were still playing with this problem that's not going to change the thinking problem. It's going to help. And one day Sam said, let's flip it. We now ask the API to auto revalidate. We stretch out the verification period to a year, and when it comes up, we're going to renew them. So that's implemented fairly recently, and it seems to be working. Then we trust our analysts to unverify things that are wrong. And the cool thing there is that finally, this is starting to not be the same thing, because for it to be unverified in this collection means that either somebody looked at it and said this is wrong and flagged it, or they unverified it, or more likely, they saw that it was wrong, they updated it, and they want somebody to stamp it as verified, second pair of eyes on here. So we're starting to have that be our new reality. So that's an example of guiding it, automating it, and flipping it. Anytime you find yourself guiding it, see whether you can automate it after you've got it going. Now, the next section, I'm going to talk about actually stretching even further to connect your Guru data to other things. And if you don't have Guru, any application you have, start connecting it to other kinds of data. Before we go there, we have another poll to see where you're coming from. So are you connecting Guru data or some other application to other kinds of data? And Sydney, over to you.
Yes, so we just launched the poll. We're curious to hear where everyone is connecting Guru data, if you are. But Tig, just it's coming through in the chat, but really can't reiterate how interesting your team's perspective is on verification and verifier individuals versus groups. Just such an interesting example of looking at what works for your team and, really, looking at ways that you can make Guru work for your team. So the poll is live. Curious to see where everyone is connecting Guru data. Okay, so looks like we have a lot coming through for documentation and training courses, a few for support. We'll give a few more moments here for anyone else who wants to get their vote in, and you can select multiple options in this poll as well. Yep, documentation and training courses. that seems to be pretty common. Some for new feature requests too. All right, we will go ahead and end the poll and see the results. So yeah, it looks like most people are connecting Guru data to their training courses, documentation, and a few other places. Super interesting. So Tig, I know that your team at Looker has connected data from Guru to lots of other places with lots of other sources. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, sure. And out of the top ones I was hearing, we're farther along with documentation and support tickets than training, but we are partway through connecting training as well. So I'm trying to connect Guru data with everything. In fact, I'm trying to connect all of our data that's product related with everything else. And the problem, excuse me, one moment. Okay. The problem with doing something like that is that teams and applications are handling the data differently. They're using different tags, or in some cases none, and they're bucketing the data in different size and shape buckets. So it's really hard to compare and talk to each other with data. It's like we're talking two different languages with two different syntax. The mismatch is a problem. And the answer is to synchronize your tagging so that you're talking about exactly the same idea in both places. So we're doing that. Back when I was in support, this was an idea I had. I called it the Common Analytics Terms, and that quickly became CATs, and people just talk about CATs. The idea is that it's going to help team efficiency. That's the thing we can measure. And we hope then it also takes care of our customers, and clearer planning helps people, it's great data for new projects. So one of the things it allows you to do, and this is easier to visualize, gathers cross-functional data together in the same place as needed. And that's what I'll show you first, is actually one of the results of this, which is a dashboard for support, which we call the Department of Customer Love. And this is the top of that dashboard. The analyst, and frankly, other people use it as well, but support analysts pick the product area they want. In this case, the person has chosen visualization. Then they get a definition of that term. Then they get the boundaries. And what I mean by boundaries is that, for example, we have visualizations, which are the built-in ones, and we have custom visualizations. So this boundary would say this includes all the built-in ones. And DCL asks what the common customer questions are. They want that data. So docs pages. Lots of you are talking about connecting to docs. Here are our documentation pages, and we've hooked in web analytics, Google Analytics. So as they're looking through the docs pages, they can see the number of views, how popular something is. Also on the top screen above the fold, shall we say, are Guru cards. And that includes their views, which is coming out of Guru's data, and their verification status. If you scroll down in the dashboard, you see various information from engineering. You also see customer feature requests. So remember, this is support. It's designed for them by Sam and me. And if a customer comes in wanting something, there's a list so they can see whether that's been asked for before. And third, DCL support ticket stats. Okay. So that includes three things. Reason type means things like, is it a how do I do this, or troubleshooting, or a few other choices. The middle one, complexity. It's the analyst's view of how hard the ticket was. Simple, very simple, all the way up to very complex. And resource used. Whoops, my bad. Back one. Resource used. So did they use Guru? Did they use public-facing documentation? Did they not find a card for it? So this section here is especially useful as people are trying to come up on new product areas. And last, we have, for those folks, also some sample tickets. So we take ones where they're great internal quality scores and great customer satisfaction scores. And those are the ones we're surfacing in this area. And last of all, if you get all the way down to the bottom and you haven't found a solution for your problem, here's some contact names and channels that you can reach out on. So back to the idea, all of this stuff is gathered together in one dashboard. And there were things they could have included that they figured were just noise to them. So what we end up with, as this quote says, the DCL CATS dashboard is a 360 view of how we support a product area. And that was Jira Wiseman, who's one of the 3 regional support managers for Looker. So, so I'm going to tell you briefly how we do that. It's going to look very familiar because most of it was on that dashboard. So I'll go fairly quick. Guru, by the time I became admin of Guru, we already had our Guru data API'd and we were seeing it in Looker. We connect that to support ticketing. We have a few things for in-app interaction, new feature requests, or customer satisfaction scores. Several things coming in from engineering. We are working on our training materials. They're partly done. Web resources. So our documentations website is done. Help Center and Community are 2 that we are working on the mechanics for. And the bottom 3, the mechanics are worked out, and we're working on getting them live. For all of the websites, we can actually see the web views of it because we've hooked in Google Analytics to understand what's going on, and our customer relationship management software. If we know who the person is, we can tie it back there. And there are a few other things, including one that ties in more directly to our customer resource manager. Whoosh. So I know of a few things out there as well that I might want to include someday, but this is our current worldview. And what ties it all together is that common 2 people having the same idea, and it means exactly the same in both places, and that's the Looker CAT, common analytics terms. So that was gathering, but it's also now easier to answer cross-functional questions, like what resources do we have for this area? Guru, docs, Zoom, training, marketing materials. We can now say what we have, which helps you not duplicate effort. It helps you send the right thing to the person that you're talking to. Do any of our Guru cards duplicate public-facing resources? If so, maybe we could get rid of it or trim it down to a link. Has there been a sudden spike after a feature released? So, hey, are there a bunch of web views of this material? Is there a bunch of support chats? Very interesting to several groups. For the current release features, the ones going out, what Guru cards do we have that might need to be updated? Because they're speaking the same language, we can actually figure that out. Whoosh. So, a few lessons learned. If this intrigues you, start with 2 teams that care about each other's effort or data, and at least one keeps metrics that you can play off of for operational efficiency or success. Another lesson, granularity. I started this effort with support and engineering, then added in docs and training. All of these are very technical for us. If your subject area is not technical, just think of the most granular stuff you've got. In our case, it was marketing and sales who struggled with this system. It's really hard for them to talk about their stuff at that level because they tended to talk about entire solutions. So instead of calling out multiple ways you could deliver data out of Looker, they were saying, hey, we have data delivery and it's got a lot of different flavors and you can do great things. So the solution for that is we, after the fact, created a hierarchy. So we have our common analytics terms. Here's just a few. And then after the fact created primary zones for marketing and sales where these things roll up. So marketing materials are flagged with delivery. And because they roll up smoothly, we know all these things are related. Now, just as an added little twist, if you look down at the bottom at database dialect, we actually have dozens and dozens of database dialects we support. Sometimes it's useful to know that. So for documentation and Guru cards, we also tag for those things. And those are considered kittens because if you tag for Google BigQuery, we know we can roll that up in the data that it's database dialect. And we can roll that up that it's connection related. So all of this rolls up smoothly at whatever level you're at. So using your application data, connect it, things become possible in very cool ways. So I'm hoping that some of this helps you think about your data and what's possible, maybe ideas for what to do, or ideas on how to present it to your management. And I also would be interested in yours, your ideas and how you think about it. And I challenge you, investigate what's going on with your data, use your data for that. Use your data in experiments to see whether they solve problems and find new opportunities. So pass it back to you, Sydney, for question and answer and also ideas that other folks have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tig. What a great way to think about connecting multiple sources and just really making Guru and all of your knowledge more powerful. So as we mentioned, if you all have additional questions, any of the participants, please send those through the chat in Zoom. We have a handful of questions that have come throughout and a couple that were submitted ahead of time. So I'll go ahead and kick that off. But if you have more, please send them along. So first question, Tig, you mentioned in the Amplify section that you are tracking how chats are solved so that you can move knowledge into Guru or from Guru into public-facing documentation. How are you tracking that?
Yeah, so fairly, right, it was months ago, 8 months ago or so, I asked for a field to be added in our support chats for how people solved it, the Guru card they solved, or link to a Slack channel or whatever. And that was too much of a burden, partly because sometimes the support analysts are switching quickly to another support chat and they're finishing up their tickets at the end of the day, so they won't remember anymore. That was too big of a burden. So I got that. But we did have, I was allowed one field to ask the question, how was the resource, what resource did you use? So originally I had 8 choices on that drop-down menu, trying to answer the question, what did you use and was it easy or hard to find? And got feedback that that was actually kind of unclear. So in fact, let me, by the way, I'm going to turn off presentation mode. I think we're just talking now. There we go. Okay, so that was deemed too confusing, unclear. We had some beta testers, which I seriously recommend, and they said kind of unclear. So then we moved it to 11 choices. And they said, yeah, it's still kind of unclear. So then landed on 13 choices. And the feedback was, yeah, it's clear. It's kind of miserable, but it's clear. And we moved, I don't want to answer this, to the top of the list. And then at one point, after that had been out in the world for a little while, Sam came in and simplified it. He dropped it down to 5 choices. And then we really started getting compliance. So we, first off, forget clear or unclear. Just the 5 choices. Here's 5 things you might have used. That worked. So lessons learned. Figure out what you wish was tracked. But only put 1 idea per field. If I had started with 1 idea, not this clear, not this easy to find and not easy, I might have eventually earned a second field. But second, you need to use the data before they give up. So I mentioned getting promoted and paying attention to more kinds of groups. So I dropped the ball for a while, and luckily just before people totally gave up on this, Molly Lipset came in and started taking the data for no resource found. And she and some volunteers looked to see if that was true. And either they would tell the analyst, hey, there was something, or they get it into Guru. And then similarly, now she's earned the right for additional information. So she has put out a request that if you used Slack or chat to get the information, then put that a link to that conversation as an internal note. At that point, she and her volunteer team will come in behind you and turn that into a Guru card. It doesn't have to be pretty, it can be the same conversation. So that made a big difference. Meanwhile, Sam and the documentation team have been looking at the other side. So it's in Guru and it's a popular card. Can we actually get that into Docs or Help Center? And similarly, any analyst has the right to surface something. Hey, we'd really like this to be external facing. We're explaining it over and over. Let's get that public facing. So kind of a long story. Hope that's okay.
Oh, yeah, no, that's super interesting. Awesome. Thanks, Tig. So next question comes from Christine. She's wondering if there have been a wave of verification requests and how many people can update the information in Guru versus how many are in Guru. Maybe how many admins you have or authors you have versus.
Okay. Each of the team collections has one admin there so that we can offload kind of collection specific questions to them. So we have 3 of those, actually 4. And on the product knowledge collection, one thing, because this grew organically, we actually had a lot of admins originally. And there was a point at which I ditched over a dozen admins. I sent them all notes. You're getting kicked out, holler if that's a problem. And as far as verifications, anybody can be an author. For the product knowledge part, pretty much anybody can be an author. Getting into the subject matter expert areas, they just reach out and ask for it. I don't think we've yet automated that. That might be actually happening soon, or I may have missed that moment, because we were planning to make it part of the ceremony of becoming qualified to be a subject matter expert in a particular area. So.
That's great.
Sam's online. Sam, you unmute yourself for a moment.
Hi, Tig. Hi, everybody.
So how do people get on the subject matter expert verification groups these days?
It's when they reach a certain point in their training. So we have courses you can take, and when you reach a certain point, we say, cool, you know enough about this, you're qualified. Now, when you edit something, it's going to be verified. Now, even if you haven't taken the course, people can still, anyone can edit cards in DCL. So what we see a lot of times is someone edits the card and says, I think this is true based on what I know. I just need someone to verify it for me. And then someone who's taken the course and is thus qualified will then check it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Feel like we're meeting a celebrity in real time. So next question for you, Tig. This came through. How do you capture content on the undernet? So especially when teams have resources and they are remote or working in different time zones, or maybe just thinking about the way that everyone's gone remote recently.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I think in some ways that may have even gotten simpler with the distribution, and I'll have Sam chime in as well. But we had a culture of writing things down before the shelter in place stuff. It did things not being written down does tend to affect people. Our headquarters is Santa Cruz, California, and we have another large office in New York and Dublin. And it does affect people in Dublin and Tokyo and other far-flung places more if things aren't in Guru cards. So it's, to some extent, kind of a culture of take care of them too, because they're going to be on at a different time and they won't have as many people to ask. Sam, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, that's really well said. I think the pandemic was an exercise in empathy for a lot of the people at headquarters to realize, oh, like I'm isolated too. You know, these teams who are in other time zones or other offices, like this is sort of how they feel, not having access to a whole community of experts. Um, so yeah, we actually did see increase in like not only Guru views but also Guru contributions as the pandemic started, which was cool to see everyone taking care of each other.
That's great. That's awesome. All right, next question that came through. What is the best way to run an audit while still completing your daily work?
I'm not sure what run on audit means in this case. Perhaps checking whether things are verified?
Yeah, I think that this one came through in the preemptive questions, people that signed up for the session went along.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can take it from that perspective. Yeah.
Okay, and if that's not what the person meant, type it into Sydney now. I'll go there too. For verification, we look at those scores not constantly, but certainly frequently. Because we have access to the analytics, it's kind of as a roll-up, we see it fairly often. As far as digging into it, for the team ones, we mostly let them do their own thing for verification. For product collection, Sam might be a better one to choose here. I care, and I poke at it periodically, but with our most recent change, I think that we've gotten better, but it's not perfect still. In terms of time, it's more that we always have that data available, and it doesn't take much effort to look at it. Sam, anything you want to add? I don't think I've given a real strong answer there, so over to you.
I love this question, right? Like, how do you find time to really take care of Guru, take care of your Guru collection and make sure it's everything you want it to be? And we don't have an amazing answer for that at Looker. Like, kind of like that slide Tig showed, the answer was the SAM process, right? I just loved working in Guru and making sure everything was up to date. And, you know, I didn't care if that meant I had to work nights or weekends or whatever. But I will say that a way that I built it into my day-to-day was by talking to my manager about, hey, this is what I do. You know, this is the value it's been producing. And this is what I've been balancing with my current day-to-day work. And so they made a new role. You know, now instead of serving support tickets every day, I'm in an education role where I can focus a good portion of my time on Guru. So I think it is about proving the value, and then that allows managers to sort of make the space.
I want to chime in on that too. I think a lot of it is, rather than, okay, do this for a little bit just to get your head around it, but typically I'd be heads down trying to get something done. Even if my manager doesn't value it, I know it's cool, I know it's important, I know it's going to make a difference. Maybe you need to do that for a little while to get a grasp of what it is you're doing. But then, like Sam says, surfacing that, and the more you can tie it to metrics, the better. But I remember a very effective slide once where Sam pointed out that he was doing 3 jobs. Once he did transition into DCL education, he was really doing 3 jobs and kind of needed 3 people. And that's when Molly got brought in as well. So he got 1. But that was not so much a discussion of metrics, but really making it clear what was involved and why it was useful. And for this Connect the Universe thing, I was actually distracted by a lot of other projects for a while, almost too long. And it was really important to come up with both a story for upper management and a tying into metrics. In my case, I tied it into supports metrics that this project would make a difference. And now it's tied into another project. My team is knowledge management. So it ties into a project that is in the works there. So it's worth backing off on actually getting that thing done for a bit to explain to your management why it matters.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for providing that insight. So one last question for you, Tig, is you mentioned that you use data to help get the company to pay for Guru rather than the support,
Oh, yeah.
right? So are there any other times that you found Guru useful for financial reasons specifically?
Yeah. There's two moments. Every now and then I will check, maybe every 3 months, I'll check to see who hasn't been in Guru for a long time. So are there seats that we could free up? So Sam's watching to see if his team's coming on board. Other people are doing it for their teams. But I just want to see who's not in. And that raises the question of whether we can quietly drop them. And yeah, I do tend to quietly drop them because they can get back in just by trying. So we have automatic provisioning, so they can get back in. The other thing is it came up once with a card that was created and the entire company was pointed to it. I have to understand, we have probably 3/4 of Looker in Guru. So in this case, I wondered whether we were bringing in people who weren't in Guru normally. So I went looking and I found that about 30 people came into Guru just for that card. So I was able to slice and dice it and say, who's been in for the last 4 months and has only looked at one card, one particular card. And it was true that those 30 had come in. Now the argument was having a single place to maintain the information. But I was able to quantify that card being in here cost us this number of users by this much per month. And I'm not the person who has to make that decision, but I can surface that decision and saying, here's the financial cost of doing that. Do you want to do something about it? You know, and that was a question I hadn't foreseen until I saw that one go out. So you can ask questions you don't expect if you have the good data at your fingertips.
Awesome. Thank you, Tig. All right, I'm going to share my screen as we close things out here. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. But just wanted to thank everyone so much for joining us for today's session. I want to encourage everyone here to join the Guru community on Slack, which you can join at the link right here. It's just bit.ly/join Guru Slack. And again, join any of our upcoming events and webinars. You can check that out at events.getguru.com. And as we mentioned earlier on, you can watch all of the Remotathon and Remoticon sessions again at remoticon.getguru.com. And on that note, just wanted to thank Tig again so much for sharing your story with us today, and really enjoyed all that you had to share with the group today. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you at the next Remotathon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.